Shut up, car. Tesla overreacting as normal. This really ties into what we're going to be trying to just have a quick talk about today. Now, it's about reading the road. I know this is one of the staple things that we need to do if we're driving well, but we're just going to have a look at a little exercise today that I first did with a driving instructor probably about 6 months ago, and I've used this little technique to try and just make people realise what I'm talking about. And it's simply this: when you're coming up to any type of junction, you've got to read where different lanes go and different markings go. People always prioritise the floor and the road surface as opposed to other signage. And we're going to look at this today and see how ridiculous that is. The junction that we're going to be practicing on today is Switch Island. Switch Island is where the M57 and M58 motorways in Liverpool meet. Amongst other roads, there are other roads that join. One being the A59, which is going to be key to what we're doing shortly. Like I said, there are multiple lanes. It's quite complex. I personally think it's quite well marked, and I don't think it's too bad, but there have been many accidents, including fatalities, at this junction over the years. So what I said to my instructor when we were talking about this reading the road, I gave them a little task to do, and I just drove through. I was in this seat and the instructor that I was training was in that seat, which is normally the case. And I said to them, okay, we're going to drive through this junction, Switch Island, and what I'd like you to do is tell me when you see the floor markings for Ormskirk A59, and I'm going to point out when I see the signage for Ormskirk A59. And the difference is quite dramatic, and that's what we're going to do today. But before we get there, I'd like to give people a little idea of a little thing that they can try coming up to any junction. Again, people want to look at the floor and the road surface to try and work out where they are going and the direction. Just try looking through the whole junction. You'll quite often see the layout well before you can see the markings on the floor. The markings on the floor effectively should be backup for where you've already chosen to go. Now, I know that's not always possible, but the big mistake that people make is that they prioritize the floor over looking at the whole lot. And this is going to play an important part of what we're going to try and do with Switch Island. I was going to say in a minute, but the traffic's pretty heavy, so we might be another 5 or so. Yep, another set of lights to wait for, and a few more Liverpool red light jumpers. Even here, pretty basic junction. This first set of lights is obviously one lane, but it splits into multiple lanes up at the next set. I know exactly where I'm going with this. Obviously, I've lived around here for over 20 years. However, if you didn't know what the layout was here, when we start to move, you shouldn't be looking at the floor, but you should be looking at possibly where all the other traffic's going up there. You'll be able to tell in an instant what lane you will need to choose just by looking a little touch further. Like I said, people tend to prioritise looking at the floor. When they look at the floor, they arrive to where they're going to go, and then they haven't worked it out, and maybe they're in the wrong lane and they panic, and then they move and then they crash. Just have a look at this as the traffic moves away a little touch further up. The left lane, they're all turning left. The black BMW's probably on the phone, and all the other traffic you could work out from a long way off where they were going. So practice that. Now, this is Switch Island, a little touch further up the road. So we're going to do as I've just suggested, or as I explained I did with the instructor. We're going to be following for A59 for Ormskirk. Now, I'm obviously being careful and reducing slightly for the lights. And if we get through these, which we do, we can see already the sign up on the left. I can see the top of it now, and it says across the top, Liverpool, Ormskirk A59 is across both lanes. And I haven't seen anything on the floor yet. The next sign, Ormskirk A59, is the middle two of 5, if there could be such a thing. And we still haven't seen any floor markings. The floor markings there, yeah, A50, just about. But look at the top rather than the floor. And that's the key to it. If you look at the road surface, honestly, all that you're going to do is just arrive into things late, and they're often worn out. I know signs can also be pretty poor. However, they give you a better idea much earlier. For example, the next sign, again, we can see up ahead, Ormskirk A59 is the left two of all 3, and we can't even see any markings on the floor. So, practice that. You'll be surprised on how much it helps. So give it a go. Let me know how you get on in the comments. Let me know also whether or not that you are a floor watcher. If you're a floor watcher, there's no embarrassment of that. I would probably say 90% of the population driving do exactly the same. So don't be too tough on yourself. This is always all about learning. Hopefully this little tip gives you less driving anxiety, because you'll be able to know in advance where you're going and what's happening. Keep safe, and I hope to see you soon.